In today's episode, I am joined by my friend Sham, who is in the medical field, to tell us all about Cade's injury, the decision to get surgery, what exactly is wrong with Cade Shin. We're going to talk about all of that in today's episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons podcast. Per usual, I'm your host, Kuka Hill. You can find me over on Twitter at Kuka Hill. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. And if you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. I told you guys this episode was coming for a while. We had to wait to see what exactly the decision Cade Cunningham was going to make, but now that we know that he is having surgery, we have friend of the podcast, Sham Mohil, on the podcast. He is obviously in the medical field. He's going to tell us all about everything we need to know with Cade's injury. But Sham, obviously, I hope you're doing well. But go ahead and explain to everybody what your credentials actually are in the medical field and why you know what you're talking about with this and why you can explain to everybody what we don't know.
Sure. So first of all, thanks for having me.
Of course.
Yeah, sure. It's been a long time. I feel like the last time, I was on, you had a little bit more hair and you're a little bit funnier. But here we are. So my name is Sham, and my whole like non-Pistons Twitter career is in the medical field. I'm not a doctor, but I am a medical device consultant. And what that means is I help manufacturers who help create medical devices for applications for doctors to use. So like knee implants, hip implants, things like that. So with that comes with a lot of education required. I got my master's and my bachelor's in biomedical engineering with a focus on biomechanics. And so really sports medicine, orthopedics has been a real big passion of mine, and kind of drove that into the engineering career as opposed to the doctor route, which I felt was a little bit kind of boring for me. But here we are. So if you remember back when I was doing more writing, I've kind of retired now. But when I was doing more writing, it was more about, how do we analyze Reggie Jackson's knee injury? Or what does Andre Drummond's nose surgery mean for his performance? And if you look back, I actually was right about a lot of it. So let's talk about stress fractures. Ku, you're an avid runner. So obviously you've experienced, when you run, you experience this pain in your shin, right? Like tightness, this feeling of swelling, some pain in the front of your leg and the shin bone. And this is all normal. This happens. But some people are a little bit more prone to this than others. And some things that cause it are like the shape of your feet, the kind of footwear that you've got on, bone density, things like, improper running form. There's a lot of reasons for why something can be inflamed. So in Cade's situation, and obviously we're speaking from very limited knowledge, right? So let's just make that clear, right? First of all, but this is very common in athletes too. So Cade probably had some issues with shin splints, and shin splints really is the feeling of pain and swelling in the shin when you undergo some sort of physical activity. And this is totally normal. You can do things like ice and rest and takes ibuprofens and painkillers. You can do range of motion exercises for this. You can do compressions. You see some of the basketball players with the calf sleeve.
Yes.
That helps with it. Elevation helps with it. But at the end of the day, when you're an athlete, you undergo constant stress. We saw this with Reggie Jackson, the knees, and the whole knee stuff. Kept on getting those kind of injections. In Cade's situation, it probably was gotten to a point where his shin splints were so bad that they were actually creating micro fractures, called stress fractures, on the actual tibia, like on the actual shin bone. And so you could manage this pain. You could just continue to ice, elevate, painkillers. But at the end of the day, you're just going to have to deal with the pain. Or you could get surgery, which kind of cleans it up a little bit, kind of creates a little bit more room in there and allows for some I'm trying to think of a good word to say it, but like kind of just kind of relieve some stress in there so that you no longer have to have that pain and that tightness in the shin. Kind of eases things along, helps repair some of the damage in there. And um it's a pretty quick surgery, but the recovery is long because you're going to have to kind of recover and retrain and rehab yourself afterwards. So Cade is going to be out for the year. He'll be totally fine next year. Rodney Magruder, I think Drew Holiday, there were I think Brooke Lopez at one point had this surgery. All these players have come back and been totally fine. So and you know and the fact that Cade is getting this addressed, you know, he's like what 21, 22. The
Right.
fact that he's getting it addressed now, it gives me confidence that he'll be pretty good or, you know, good to go for the rest of his career. And I'm sure the decision was based on a lot of things. He, you know, probably wanted to get a bunch of opinions from different doctors, and I think the most important opinion was probably his own. And it's like, okay, do I want to continue dealing with the pain, or do I want to just get it over with? You know, just call this a wash season and then come back just that much stronger next year.
Okay, so the quick question I have for this, and you kind of hit on it a little bit, but just confirm or you know, if it's not, you don't want to confirm it. Maybe everyone's wrong. You want to deny it, but so should everyone expect Cade Cunningham to return 100%? This isn't some like career-altering injury. Like he should be able to come back and be fine.
Well, that's never easy to answer, right? For any surgery, any injury, right? You never know. I mean, look at was it Tyrod Taylor who went in with a bruised rib or broken rib for the for the LA Chargers, and then they ended up injecting him with some painkiller, but the injection ended up puncturing his lung and making it worse.
Right.
So when you undergo procedures, risks are always going to be there. So I can't confidently say everything will be fine, but based on the nature of the surgery and based on the experience that I'm sure of the doctor who's going to be doing the surgery and of the players that we've seen recover well from this, I feel pretty confident that he'll be fine.
Okay. So this was a quick segment right here. I'm going to call this segment now because when we come back, I want to talk with Shem about why surgery may have been the best option over rest. Could it have been something that Cade was dealing with longer than maybe we would have thought? And we can get even further into it. Also, at the end of the podcast, we'll talk about the Ringer's top 100 players list, which Sham specifically said he wanted to get into on this episode. So stay tuned for all of that. But first, I got to tell you guys about some of our sponsors. First up, let me tell you a little bit about ExpressVPN. So we all know how ExpressVPN protects your privacy and security online. But here's something you might not know. You can use ExpressVPN to unlock movies and shows that are only available in other countries. Maybe you've run out of stuff to watch on Netflix. This will absolutely change your world. Use ExpressVPN to binge The Office, the UK version, over on Netflix. It's so simple to do. Just sign into Netflix, fire up the ExpressVPN app, change my location to the UK, refresh Netflix, and it's that easy. ExpressVPN lets you control where you want your sites to think you're actually located. You can choose from almost 100 different countries, so just imagine all the Netflix libraries you can go through. But it's not just Netflix. ExpressVPN works with any streaming device. Hulu, BBC iPlayer, YouTube, you name it. There are hundreds of VPNs out there, but the reason why I use ExpressVPNs to watch shows is because it's ridiculously fast. There's never any buffering or lag. You can stream it in HD, no problem. ExpressVPN also works on all your devices, phones, media consoles, smart TVs, and more. So you can watch what you want on the big screen or on the go. So if you want to get access to hundreds of new shows, go to expressvpn.com/lockedon right now, and you can get an extra 3 months of ExpressVPN for free. That's expressvpn.com/lockedon, expressvpn.com/lockedon to learn more about ExpressVPN. Now, I also got to tell you guys about a message from NHTSA. You're hanging out with some friends and putting back a few drinks. A few become way too many. As the evening comes to an end and people start to head out, you think of calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. You can make it home okay. It's no big deal. What are the odds you'll get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that could possibly happen? Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you lose your job, you tow your car, or you could possibly kill someone. Everyone knows about the risk of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons, hit that subscribe button, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. All right, Sham, let's go ahead and dive back into this injury from Cade Cunningham. Obviously, it felt like that a lot of us knew for a while now that surgery was going to be the route that they took. I think it was basically reported weeks ago that was going to end up being the option, but they didn't want to push it on Cade. They wanted Cade to make his own decision, like you said. But it's official. He will be getting surgery. Troy Weaver said that would probably be happening this week. So just give some insight. Why do you think they chose surgery over rest? And do you believe also that surgery over rest is probably the way to go here?
So the main reason why is because he's a professional athlete. I mean, frankly, his career, the way he makes a living is built off of activity, working out, playing basketball. These are all things that would inflame and make this problem worse and make the pain really not go away. Because the best way to kind of treat, whether it be shin splints or, stress fractures, is just rest. And unfortunately, he doesn't have the luxury of having the rest. So it's really either a pain management game, or you get surgery and your bone heals better, and then you're better equipped to be able to handle that stress post surgery.
All right, so I read something from James Edwards III's Athletic article. He had a doctor on there he was interviewing, and I believe the doctor said within that article that if he did not get surgery, this was something that could keep coming back up. Yep. Like you mentioned a little bit earlier, he could rest it, but then once he gets back out there, it may flame up again. Just keeps coming back up over and over and over again, and that surgery could remove that from continuing to come back up again in the future. Is that is that a true statement? Do you think that's something that obviously is why he chose to go surgery here?
Yeah. So really this is a long-term game. It's not about fixing a problem. It's not about like the short-term solution. It's about addressing a problem that would then prolong his career and make his pain management a little bit better. So that's probably why he went the surgery route. And there's no reason to come back, right? There's no reason to play the 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off game to be able to manage this pain, because the Pistons are 7-22.
Yeah.
That, I mean, say what you want, that does come into play. If the Pistons were 22-7, maybe this is a different conversation. But given the fact that the team is not all that good, he's in a lot of pain. They have the luxury of time. Why not give it to him?
All right, fair enough. All right, so the next question I have for you is, actually, I just completely went blank. I literally just completely went blank with the question I wanted to ask. I lost it during then.
Okay, I'll tell you what happened. So Koo looked into my eyes and he got lost in thought.
Nah, I don't know if that's what exactly happened. But okay, if it comes back to me, I'll ask it. But before we get into the Ringers top 100 list, so obviously Cade's going to be out for the whole year. He's going to have his time to rest. We're going to see more of Killian Hayes, Jaden Ivey. What do you think? I know you said you're obviously Sham's not in the writing business as much anymore. He's not as much into the.
But I'm still watching the team though.
Fair
don't
enough.
Get it twisted, yeah.
What are you looking at? We've talked about a lot on the podcast about, if we had to find some silver linings out of this, what are some silver linings that you're looking at this through? And because like I said I said this on the last podcast, we could sit around and cry about it. We could sit here and be sad about it for weeks, and that would do nothing. We might as well try to find some kind of positives that we can make out of this. What are some silver linings that you see from this?
Well, I think the most important silver lining is we get to see who is that next guy, right? Like, is it Jaden Ivey? Is it somebody else? Is it Sadiq Bey? Is it Killian Hayes? I mean, now that, Cade Cunningham, who is your number one option, your face of your franchise, and will be the face of your franchise for, I hope, for the rest of his career, but at least for a good number of years, he can't do everything. So who is it going to be? Who's going to be that next guy that steps up? Who's going to be the guy that the Pistons build around with Cade Cunningham? Who's going to be the Jaylen Brown to a Jason Tatum? Who's going to be that next guy? And, I think we're starting to see the development. I mean, the most unfortunate silver lining of this whole thing is that with Cade out, we're starting to see more playing time and more opportunity for guys like Killian Hayes to really not shoot 1 for 7 anymore. and to really expand and figure out how to be a more creative scorer and to expand facets of their game and not fall into the, if you're like a second or a third or a fourth option on a team, you could easily fall back into a role. And I think with Cade out, now somebody has to step up. And I think putting that pressure on the team and forcing that would kind of separate the pros versus the Joes here. We've seen Sadiq Bey look markedly worse since Cade Cunningham has been out, whereas we've seen Killian Hayes been markedly better since Cade Cunningham has been out. Is it because of Cade being out, or is it because of these players finally stepping up and having the opportunity to do that? That remains to be seen, but at least now Troy Weaver gets an opportunity to see which one of these guys is for real and who can we build around.
All right. So, and like you said, you mentioned some players that have, risen to the occasion. Some players have fallen off a little bit. I believe we're at like 16 or so games, a little bit more than 16 games maybe without Cade. It's not a big sample size. There's quite a few other questions I want to get to here, so you don't have to spend too long on this one. But if you had to talk about some players that you've liked, some stuff you mentioned Killian Hayes already, but some players that you've liked, what you've seen since Cade has sat out, or some players that you think that you will see more of, and then also some players you think you've seen struggle and will continue to struggle during this.
Well, I think the obvious answer for a player that's kind of stepped up is Killian Hayes, right? Like he's the guy who's the lead ball handler. He stepped into that point guard role, and he's been playing much, much better. I mean, the first 10 games of the season or so, we all were talking about Killian Hayes like, damn, should he even be in the league? Like he's not looking good at all. The effort's not there. He's not hitting shots. The only thing that was there really is playmaking and defense. And even then, how far can that really take you? But now we're seeing a totally different player. And I think that is because Cade has been out, but I think it's really more of a personality game, right? Where Cade has been out. He's had more opportunities to shoot the ball. Because he's had more opportunities to shoot the ball, more baskets have gone in. And, you and I both have played basketball before. When you see more baskets go in, you become a better shooter. So that's one player I think has just been a lot better. I think some of the players that haven't been as impressive to me, like Sadiq Bey has been not that impressive to me since Cade has been out. But I'm struggling to see whether or not that's because of Cade or that's just because he is a streaky guy. I mean, we saw the same streakiness last year. So Cade obviously makes things better. He has a certain sense of gravity that opens up opportunities for others. And Killian Hayes does not have that same gravity. Jaden Ivey does not have the same opportunity. So Sadiq Bey has to find creative ways to create shots for himself. And I think we're seeing him, you and I have talked about him like quote unquote doing too much, sidestepping into threes or,
Right.
driving to the basket more or things like that. And this is all good. It's good for his development that he's doing these different things, but at the end of the day, like still got to make buckets. And he's just not doing it at the same way he used to, or at least we all thought he would.
Yeah, the biggest thing with Sadiq, and we've talked about this so many times on the podcast, specifically over the last few weeks, is the fact that he's improved some of these other areas to points of like being average at them, but it was supposed to be something that like strung off of his outside shooting, and now that the outside shooting's completely fallen off, it was never supposed. Those other things were never supposed to be his main part of the game. It was supposed to be things he could tag off of his outside shooting. But we'll definitely see how that goes in the future. Hopefully, they start to get more comfortable. Some of these other players. Obviously we've talked about Killian a lot on the podcast. He's been one of the main players who have looked the best since Cade went out. But so hopefully some of these other players, even Jaden Ivey struggles some. So hopefully some of these guys start to come around and get adjusted to life without Cade. I remembered the question I wanted to ask you earlier. So Troy Weaver said, and I talked about this just a little bit on the last podcast. Troy Weaver in his little presser he did like yesterday during practice, whatever. He said this was something that Cade had been dealing with for a minute now. You described it earlier in I believe in the first segment. Is it possible that this is something that Cade, like you said, it can start? I believe you say it can just start as shin splints and then you just kind of keep going through it. Is this something that he could have been dealing with going back before preseason, off season last year? Is like this something that could have been bugging him for a while now, and people just didn't know? Maybe he didn't even know.
No, I'm sure he knew. I'm sure he knew that he had shin splints. I'm sure this has been an issue that's been plaguing him since he's been in an adult body. And it's really common. I mean, if you play basketball, you're constantly putting pressure on your shin. I mean, you're just the sheer act of running the angle that you have when you run, you're putting that pressure on your shin. And so it's not uncommon to have for basketball players to have shin splints, and then it's also not uncommon for those shin splints to turn into stress fractures.
Okay.
And honestly, I feel like everybody who experiences shin splints has a certain degree of stress fracture. It's just whether it's, again, it goes back to the pain tolerance. Is the pain worth it? Are you able to manage the pain of your shin splints? Inflammation happens across the whole body. It's just, a matter of, can you tolerate it, over an 82 game or an 82 plus game season, depending on if you make the playoffs or not.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. All right. So I think we're going to leave it there, and then we'll come back and we're going to talk about the Ringer's top 100 list, which, by the way, again, Sham specifically said himself, I was not going to talk about this. I didn't even know that they had dropped this list, but Sham said specifically that he wanted to talk about this and he was going to surprise me with the list. So again, I have not seen this list. I don't know what's going on this list. I don't know where anyone's at. But we're going to go ahead and get into it. Actually, you know what? I lied. There's one more question I just thought of, Sham, that I wanted to ask real quick. And I know we're running a little bit long in this segment, but I just thought about this. I saw you tweet this. I just remembered I wanted to talk to you about this.
Okay.
You tweeted, you sent me it actually too. You saw a video of some of Cade's finishes, some of his, driving dunks, whatever, and you said, watch which leg he keeps landing on. And a lot of them he was landing on his left leg. So a listener asked me this, and I wanted to make sure I asked you this question before we ended the podcast. That dunk he had against the I forget which dunk it was, but I think you know which dunk I'm talking about. When he was going down the lane, he got fouled, and he landed right on his left leg. I believe it was the first highlight of the video you watched, and he looked up at the ref and was like freaking out. He looked like he really came awkward on his left leg, and one of the listeners wanted me to ask you, is it possible that, again, like you said, he was dealing with shin splints, but then that landing right there really kind of just broke it farther, not broke the bone, but really took it over to where it was a little bit more than just shin splints?
So probably not. But I feel like the whole point I was making of posting that was that if that is his habit to land on his left leg, he's constantly going to have that pressure put on his left leg over and over and over and over and over again. And so, although maybe in one instance versus the other may have created a little bit more stress on his shin than others, but it's more of the repetition game, that
Okay.
if that is his habit after landing after his dunk on his left leg, maybe that is why he has, worse shin splints, or in this case, stress fractures on his left leg versus the other one. So it's just I'm trying to look at a pattern of behavior, because it is a pattern injury. It's it's a stress injury. It's not you've broken your leg, or it's not it's a clean break, or it's not you've torn a muscle. It's very much a repeated activity, and your body trying to accommodate and get accustomed to that stress.
Okay, perfect. I just want to say I absolutely have loved Sham's explanation for all this, because I didn't obviously know anything about this, and I feel like I'm way more educated on this whole topic. So I appreciate you, Sham, coming on and telling us all about this.
Of course.
All right, so when we come back, now we'll get into the Ringer's Top 100, and Sham's going to surprise me. He's probably going to ask me some questions, make fun of me for being wrong. But we'll do that when we get back. First, I got to tell you guys about one of our sponsors, you guys' favorite sponsor, Built Bar. Now that we got the pod, pause for just a second. I got to tell you guys about Built Bar's new reimagined flavors, cookie dough topper, coconut brownie bar, coconut brownie topper. White chocolate peppermint granola, it's Built's take on the granola bar so it's more filling and still insanely tasty. And candy cane brownie puff. Built puffs are like biting into universe's most delicious cloud. And I'm going to keep it a buck with you guys. The puff bars are my favorite ones. I've been over here eating some of the puff cookie dough ones. I really like those ones. The chocolate chip one, those ones are my absolute favorite. First off, for anyone who hasn't tried Built Bars before, they're literally the best tasting protein bars ever built. They're revolutionizing nutrition as we know it, with 100% real chocolate, 17 grams of protein, and shockingly low sugar and calories, 130 calories. Just sink your teeth into the first bite and it'll change your life forever. I'm not kidding. There will be time before you try these new Built Bars and you will know of it. And the magical, wonderful time afterwards, you're probably wondering which new flavors are my favorite. Like I told you guys, my favorite ones, the peanut butter flavor, the cookie dough flavor, those two right there are my absolute favorite ones. But I'm sure you guys can find other ones that you guys will like. And maybe you want to try all kinds of different flavors. You can get that by ordering their mix box, and you can try all five different flavors for yourself. Bill, you got to try this. Get 15% off your order right now by using promo code LOCKEDON15 at built.com. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDON15 at built.com. Built Bar, the best tasting protein bar ever. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button at the YouTube channel, Locked On Pistons, obviously. Or you can leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. So while Sham goes into this little whatever this segment he has planned for us as the guest, he's the guest, and he comes on and he's already taken over a third segment.
I'm just trying to give you content, man.
Fair enough. While he does that, my wife brought me a Starbucks coffee, so I'm gonna sit back and I'm gonna drink this. So Sham, go ahead and take this where you're trying to take this, whatever questions you're trying to fool me with. Go ahead and get started.
Okay, so just for our non-video audience, hold up that drink you got in your hand.
What's up? What's wrong with it?
You got a whole, I mean, it's about 40% whipped cream. It's chocolate drizzled on top.
Yep.
And not to mention, it is 6:37 and this dude's drinking coffee.
I gotta be up for a while, man. Java chip frappuccino with the extra shot of espresso. That's what this is.
Man, pair that with a Built Bar and you're in business. So okay, let me just preface this by saying the Ringer is the Ringer. So just with that publication comes outlandish opinions. The whole idea behind this list really is to do exactly what we're doing, so that we go on each, tweet these things and go on our podcast and talk about, oh, he should be higher than this person, or I can't believe this person made the list, or I can't believe this person cracked the top 25. This is the whole point of it, right? But I was a little bit interested to see where our Pistons lined up in this list, and I was kind of shocked to see the fact that there were only 2 Pistons on this list. And I was shocked to see where, especially one of these Pistons has landed after this season. Like given the fact that they've been, he's been performing this well this season, I was surprised to see that, where this person has landed. So the thing I would love to do with you, Ku, is first, can you figure out who those 2 people are that have made this list?
Cade and Bojan.
That's correct. Shot in the dark.
1 for 1.
Shot in the dark. Shot in the dark. Where do you think Cade Cunningham landed on this list?
So my question is this podcast taking is this list taking into account so far this year's performance, like the first 20 or so games? Like, is that playing into it too?
It is. So throughout the I'm just reading the top part. Throughout the regular season and into the offseason, our foursome of an analysts will update this list based on recent results.
Oh yeah, so it's taking into account this regular season. So
correct.
I'm gonna go ahead and say Cade was probably top 70.
Yeah.
Let's go 54th.
Yeah, pretty close. He was 60th.
Oh, okay, fair enough. I was close.
60th. Some notable players around him. Fred VanVleet was 58. Marcus Smart was 57. Anthony Simons was 59. Franz Wagner was 61. Michael Porter Jr. 62. Robert Williams III 63.
I can't be mad with Anthony Simons being higher than him. Anthony Simons
he's been
going
balling.
crazy. Yeah, he's been going crazy this year.
Yeah.
All right, so Bojan's actually what I'm interested in, because if they're taking into account this year, is it immediately I'm going to say, is Bojan above Cade?
No.
Oh, that's actually shocking. That's shocking to me. Yeah. I thought they'd have him top 50.
Yeah. So, I feel like his age is played against him. I mean, he's been playing really well, but I feel like the fact that he's 33 is always preface his performance with, but he's 20 point per game score, but he's 33. I don't think that's very fair, because I think his game does translate into an older, quote unquote, older man's game,
Right. All right. Is he 80th?
No, not that bad.
Oh, so it's not that bad. Okay.
No.
67th.
He's 71.
Okay, so I didn't do too bad with this. Yep. I was right around the ballpark with all of them.
Yep. Some notable players around him. So around him, 69. Nice. CJ McCollum. Which I think is actually a little bit low for CJ, but that's just me. 70 is Keldon Johnson. 72, Scotty Barnes.
Scotty was that far down?
Yep, that far down. He's not been so good this year, but I still feel like it's a little bit low for him. 73, Clint Capella. Who else we got here? We got Kevin Huerter at 78. Jordan Poole at 83. Jalen Green at 84.
Oh, Jalen. So let me ask you this: was Cade the highest ranked guy from his draft class?
No.
Who was above him? Evan Mobley.
Yeah. So yeah, I just want to see where he ended up. Yeah, 43 was Evan Mobley.
Can't be mad at it because Cade has been gone for like more than half the year, so I can't be mad at it.
The one that I was really intrigued with was Tyrese Halliburton at 21, just a spot below Jaylen Brown.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Shan. I don't know where you're at with this one. I wouldn't have been shocked if they had him higher.
Yeah, I could see that. There's a few players that are a little bit higher than him than I thought maybe were more deserving. Like just ahead of him was Jaylen Brown, Trae Young, Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell, Jimmy Butler, Zion, Pascal, Paul George. Shea was 12, Devin Booker at 11. I thought Ja Morant was a little bit low for me at 10.
Shai wasn't top 10?
No, he was 12.
I feel like Shai should be top 10.
Yep, that's what I thought too. I thought SGA and Ja should have been top 10. But if you look at the top 10, it's like, who do you take out? Giannis from the top down. Giannis, Steph Curry, Jokic, Luka, KD, Jason Tatum, Joel Embiid, Anthony Davis, LeBron James. That's the top 9.
I'm not going to lie to you, Sham. I'm not going to lie. I
think there's one guy on there that doesn't really fit the bill.
I think Shai should replace LeBron, man. Or Shai or Josh should take LeBron's spot there. I don't know. I wouldn't say AD because AD has been balling so much lately. Like he's completely flipped the script like the last 3 weeks.
Yep.
I don't know, man. I think Shai or Josh would be above LeBron on that one.
Yep. It's just an interesting list, right? Like it's like the decision making between putting one guy ahead of another, and like, for example, like why would you put Desmond Bane at 31, but have someone like Bradley Beal at 36, or have someone
Bane's
like
been hurt too.
So then why do you have him that high? Right below Kawhi Leonard and Drew Holiday. It's just like it's just interesting to see like why. I mean, and of course there's explanations, on this. Like LaMelo Ball 48, the dude doesn't even really play this year. I think he's gonna play today, isn't he?
Yep, he should. So we're recording this podcast at 6:43, so the Pistons will be on in like 15 minutes against the Hornets. Yes, and he is playing tonight.
Kyrie Irving 66.
He probably should be higher.
Yeah, like it's just hard. Like right below Tyler Hero at 65.
I thought Tyler Hero might have been higher too than 65.
I don't know, man. It's like Al Horford at 68. Like I don't know. Like you're telling me Al Horford's been better this year than Bojan.
I don't know if I can buy that one either.
Yeah. See, it's like but this is exactly why they do these lists. Exactly why.
Fair enough. All right. Well, Sham, I hope you enjoyed having your own segment. You can go tweet.
I did. Yeah.
So as your friends.
Yeah. So you can pay me in Built Bars.
Sham got his own segment on Locked On Pistons. I might have to split the pay with him this month.
Yep.
For Locked On.
I'll take my 10 racks. I mean, $10.
There you go. I appreciate you coming on, man. All you guys know.
Anytime.
You guys know who Sham is. Sham is the person that got me into all this. Literally, he's the one who brought me on like years and years ago to Piston Powered, and I've grown from there. But Sham was by far the biggest person who's helped me in this career. So Sham's my guy. Sham's my boy. So I appreciate you coming on, man. I really do. It was a lot of fun.
Of course, man. Anytime.
Make sure you guys go follow him on Twitter at ShamShamGod. Second Sham with 2 M's. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. Hit that subscribe button at the YouTube channel, Locked On Pistons, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you are listening to this on. Hope you guys have a great day. Stay safe out there. Go Pistons. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace out, everybody.